It's huge sums of money. I think this past year, I think it was in the region of 1.3 or 1.4 billion dollars that were collected by the performing rights organizations alone, ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. As far as how we pay it out, it depends basically on the nature of the usage. If a writer has a song that's placed in an NBC television show during prime time, the advertising dollars that are generated by that performance can be massive. So obviously we're able to, as a percentage of the money that's collected, we're able to pick up the performances through our survey, because we can pay somebody to process that performance and make sure that the writer gets paid. And also the money will be significantly higher because the advertising revenue during that time slot is significant. And then it goes all the way down to the other end of the scale where we do a survey of the internet, but the monies that are generated by companies on the internet at this point really are typically, they're operating in the red. Nobody's really figured out how to make money off the internet yet. We see the advertising dollars are gradually moving over from traditional terrestrial radio and broadcast television and print. It hasn't really quite gotten to the point where there's significant money there. So, the monies are so small that we can't possibly pick up every single performance, and even if we did pick up every single performance, those performances would generate micro pennies at best, monies that we couldn't even pay out because there's not a form of currency small enough to represent the amount of money generated by these performances. In the future, we hope that it will grow and become a significant area of revenue for us. But obviously, a performance on the internet, number one, we can't pay somebody to process, to figure out every single thing that's being played on the internet, whereas television, we can pick up everything that happens on network television and most of the cable stations and pay out significant monies on that. So it's a sliding scale, and through that whole spectrum of performances, you have locally originating television programming, you have commercial radio, like larger commercial radio stations, college radio, all these other ways that music are used, in addition to the fact that we pay out on the top 200 live concerts. In our concert division, and for classical and jazz and formats like that, we're paying out on when programs are submitted by the composers themselves. They can inform us about the performance, and we'll pay based on that information. So we pay out a bunch of different ways. It's a weighting formula that's based on a bunch of different factors, and obviously each performance is different. A performance on the top 200 live concert tours, we're not necessarily going to take into account the amount of advertising dollars that are generated or something like that. But if we're talking about radio, some of the factors that go into the weighting formula are the time of day that the performance occurs. If it's an overnight spin on a station, it's not going to generate as much advertising revenue as a spin that occurs during drive time. The size of the market that it occurs in, if it's in the 122nd biggest market in America versus in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, it's also going to generate less money. So the payout would be smaller. The amount of advertising revenue that's actually generated by the station in a given year will be a factor. There's a bunch of different things that go into it. And then we have an outside company that actually conducts our survey of radio. They feed that information back to us, and then we pay out based on all this information that they give to us. So there can never be any accusations of us slanting the survey to favor one writer over another, because we are given the information by this outside company and then we pay out purely based on that information. We're completely transparent in that regard, and I believe we're the only PRO that is.